Kia ora, hello. Welcome to the first session of Analogue Photography School. My name's Kate Vanderdrift and I'm going to be working with you over the next period. And the purpose of this video is to talk about what you can expect from our first group session together, which will be on a Wednesday or a Thursday, depending on which group you're in. To begin with, the program is going to be fairly manually set up rather than automated because I haven't quite got my head around all of the tech yet. But eventually all of the videos will be in a course portal. For now, I'll send you links via email to videos, and then I will put links to all of those videos in a Google document, just in case you miss something along the way. So in the first session, we're going to introduce ourselves and give a little bit of our background. This is going to be really helpful to understand where people are coming from. There's lots of different levels of experience, and we want to know where people are at. There's going to be beginner, intermediate, and advanced artists in these groups, mostly intermediate artists that have a creative practice already. And I know that because of the surveys that you generously filled in. Thank you for doing those. I found with the surveys that there was a clear desire for group work, for supporting one another, for having peers to talk to about their work and to be held in community. So I'm really happy to hear that. The purpose of this group will be to share your work with me and each other and to get feedback and to progress. It can be a little bit scary at the beginning, but it's a very important part of being an artist. And that's what this group is for. I've been thinking about an analogy for the creative process, and I want to share that with you. So in this demonstration of the awa or river analogy, I'm going to use myself as an example, so my own experience, because I think that can be helpful to think things through with. But I want you to take it and make it your own and use your own imagination as to where you feel like you sit and to describe your own experience. So everyone's journey is going to be different and every river is different. And this river analogy is, I guess, a visualization of how I feel that my creative experience has been over my career. So let's start. I feel as though the beginning of my time as an artist was challenging, really challenging. So I liken that to the beginning of the river, the Waikato River that comes from Lake Taupo. And I think about the time when I did my undergraduate degree, like Hooker Falls. So it's turbulent. I had lots of different ideas, projects. I didn't know what medium I was really wanting to work in. I was kind of throwing myself this way and that way, and sometimes things would work, mostly not. I was making like pretty average artwork, mostly. I feel pretty embarrassed by my first work, my first artworks at university, but it was all in the journey of learning. So I'm going to describe this time as a bit of turbulence at the beginning. This is kind of like, the beginning where there's people go whitewater rafting. It's like there's waves, there's rocks, there's a lot to bang up against. It's quite shallow, this part in my own analogy, my own river analogy. It's not necessarily very well supported in the sides. So these are the sides. There's some trees, but it's pretty, there's rapids, waterfalls. There's no real clear course for the water, and it's just getting thrown one way and another. But it's quite fun, exciting. So I might write these words down. Exciting, challenging, frustrating. It's hard to keep a course in this beginning stage, for me anyway. But it's important to keep going. So you just have to be resilient and keep on trying to make your way down further in the river, because you know that there's something else that's possible. So for me, in this initial stage, I was making video work. I was trying out lots of things. I kept coming back to photography. So I kept wanting to turn whatever assignment I was given into photographs. So that was quite a clear sign that photography was a way that I felt I could express myself and express ideas. And then I think kept making work. This is the making work. And then in 2015, I decided to go and do a postgraduate degree. And I've told some of you this story. I was still in this turbulent zone. I wasn't feeling happy with what I'd been making. It was still challenging and all over the place. And that led me to feel depressed. I think because I wasn't sure what I should be doing. And I just wasn't happy with my work. And luckily, I found a mentor, and she could see that I really needed encouragement and support, and she encouraged me to read. I had been reading, but not enough variety. And this is where the river started to change. She also encouraged me to find a touchstone for my work, something that really resonated, that I could keep coming back to. So we can come back to that throughout our group work as well. But reading was what made the difference, reading and writing. So I'm going to put in some of the reading that came in during that point as another tributary to the river, to my river. And it flowed in. Okay, the source of this important tributary to me was Jeff Park. And it was Essays on Landscape in Whenua. Now, I was being forced to write an essay, so I had to read widely. Jeff Park was pivotal for me at that time of getting me to understand particularly the history of the scenic reserve. I can show you. I bought the book. So this book was the shift for me. That year, I still didn't make any photographs that I really liked, but I wrote an essay, and that was what changed everything. It was kind of like a manifesto for me and my work, and that was really helpful to keep returning to, rather than, going one way and then the next and rolling back on myself like I had been in the rapids. So I kept making work in the next few years, different projects that had kind of, I guess that essay that I had written turned out to be a bit of a guiding principle for my practice. So I was trying out some different things in the next few years. And then I read another of his books, Ngā Ura Ora. I've got that one here too, this one. And that was another really important moment. And because in one of his essays, he talks about a place near where I grew up, and it's really struck a chord with me. I had a real emotional connection to the piece of writing and the place. And then so I started working very site-specifically in that place, and learning about it and meeting people there, and photographing. So along this river, I'm going to start to describe the river bank, which is really important for this analogy. So the river bank was starting to be strengthened by making work. Then I kept on making work, and these riverbanks started to be strengthened by talking about it and writing about it, about the work. And then another tributary, another really important thing an essay that I read was in Mike Joy's book, Mountains to Sea. It was an essay by a soil scientist, Nick Kim. Now that changed the course of the river, that tributary. And I was still working with this manifesto, I guess, in a way, that I'd written myself. But I decided at that point that I wanted to use a darkroom. And I was very fortunate because I didn't realise, but I had the ability to go back to Elam with a scholarship and use the darkroom there. So that meant that I could start experimenting. Because I didn't have a studio at that point, I was just working on my computer, making photographs, digital and film, analog photos. So I went back to Elam and started making the river exposures, which were the first cameraless images that I started to make. So that meant that I needed to do a lot more reading and writing because, I was expected to write another essay. And so there were these tributaries that were flowing. I mean, I was reading the whole time, but it wasn't necessarily being processed into a form that was written that was really supportive of my work. Reading Nick Kim's work and Mike Joy's book was what changed the course of the river and made me decide to go to art school. So so these riverbanks started to get a bit stronger with all this reading and writing and talking and making and trying and putting the work up in the space and talking to peers and, consolidating thoughts and getting an elevator pitch. And that's what started to strengthen the sides of the riverbanks here for me. And the riverbank is really important for me thinking about this program and working with you, because this is what I want the program to do. I want the program to facilitate a deepening of your riverbank. So, and that's your support. The water feels like it's becoming a bit calmer, a bit deeper, and then I'm just really excited for other tributaries to come towards the river. So I had one last year, which was an artist residency, and that I ended up making site-specific work. So that entailed a whole new kind of way of working and set of things to learn and read about and talk about, and then finally exhibit. And I have friends that I talk to about my artwork as well and about my process, and they ask me questions about it. So they are really pivotal in the riverbank. Also have a studio, that helps. So I'm going to write these down. Friends, studio, equipment, technical know-how. No, everyone can't go to art school. It'd be great if you could, but it's also, a big commitment, I know. So that is, I guess, what we're trying to do here is create a space where we can get to know one another. We can offer one another support, resources. That's what all of these tributaries are. They are, podcasts and books and conversations and opinions and all sorts. So we're going to be sharing resources. So right now I feel like I'm in this deeper part. There's going to be rocks along the way, I know, that will kind of put a little spanner in the works. But I feel like my river banks are now deep enough to be resilient, and that I'd like to be able to offer some support to other people that need that. So what I'd like you to do is have a think about this, think about where you're at. If you're a new artist, if you're a beginner, you might be up here in the turbulent part, and it's exciting and fun, and I can support you by giving you potentially assignment briefs or jumping off points, prompts, and you just need to say. If people could, it would be great if you would create your own diagram or your own way of communicating some of your experience. This is it for this analogy, but I'll see you in the next video.